All right, music fans, welcome back to the Real Music Observer. I am Dave, observing real music in real time for real people just like you right there and me right here. I think I figured out where the lens is. Peter Cetera gives hope to Steve Perry fans because I believe these two guys they're in the same group of elite singers that have sung over, say, the last 50 years whose voices are really impossible or very close to impossible to duplicate, although I have heard people sound more like Perry than Peter Cetera. Cetera, if you don't know the story, he broke his jaw in a fight. A barroom brawl happened around, I don't know, the first couple of years Chicago was recording and touring. And he had his jaw wired shut. And then he had to learn how to sing through that process. And since then, it's given Peter Cetera a completely unique tone where there's this... It's almost like a woodwind instrument where more air flows through, and when it comes out, it's got this deeper resonance. And if you go listen to like Peter sing "I'm a Man" with Chicago, he's like a different vocalist. He's just a high-pitched, squealy tenor. And then when he gets into this breathing that he's doing, or this extra resonance that's coming out, there's a certain depth and there's a certain way he holds notes and phrases, and it's extremely unique. It's almost like he had an accident which helped him create a whole new product. You know, it was an accident. All of a sudden, he's a good vocalist, and then he becomes this, genetic freak because he had this accident. And to this day, Peter Cetera sounds like nobody else, and nobody else is going to try. Robert Lamb once said that after he tried to find somebody to replace Peter when Peter left the band, he realized that this voice was not, it just wasn't replaceable. You could not duplicate, I think his words were, you could not duplicate Peter Cetera. So, Peter Cetera is 70 years old. He's touring. He does a lot of gigs south of the United States border. He is very fond of Mexico and South America. He is more than just a rock star down there. He's a god with a small g. I watched a concert that he did back in March in one of those South American countries. I don't know if it was Argentina. I don't know which one it was. He was speaking some Spanish, and the audience was loving it and lapping it up. But the television crew there was very attentive to people in the audience, where they would pan to these people in the audience who were, the women especially, some men too, though, quite frankly. But the women were they were in awe watching Peter Cetera. Now, this is Peter Cetera, though. He, rather than being really back with his band, okay? His band, by the way, is called the Bad Daddies, in case you didn't know. There's this like circle in the round thing, but it doesn't turn or anything. It's just this, and his name is actually written on the stage, okay? Yeah. First of all, you're in a Spanish-speaking country, all right? I mean, his name is the same, but what good is putting your name on the stage? I think people know who you are when you get there. So he's up there, and he sees his name on the stage, and he actually comments about, "Ooh, it's my name. Ooh, I'm Peter Cetera." But he is basically allowed to kind of roam this circle by himself, and he's striking all these poses. Peter, love him or hate him, he is a performer. He is a master showman. I am not a big fan of what he's been doing lately as far as snubbing his former bandmates in Chicago. He totally stood them up both at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and at the Songwriters Hall of Fame. I don't get the guy. I don't get why showing up and having a few pictures taken would be the end of the world. You'd make a lot of fans really happy, but apparently he's more interested in not doing that. So, to make a long story short, or maybe to make the story longer, he can still kind of sing. And what I mean by that is everything is set in a lower key. And I was listening to an interview with Jeff Coffey, the current lead vocalist in Chicago who sings all the Peter stuff, and he was remarking how good Peter Cetera sang. He also said that everything is dropped at least one, maybe two steps so he can handle it. In fact, rumor had it that when he was in negotiations to perform at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they were going to do 25 or 6-4, and they were going to drop it two steps, and Robert Lamb is like, no, that's dropping it too much, and we're not going to have the whole band relearn, the horn parts, everything's going to have to come down, and it's not going to sound authentic. So at the time, they had Jason Scheff still, and he of course, just sang it in the regular key, and everything was fine and dandy. But the point is about Cetera is he could still sing. He just can't sing super high. Every once in a while, his voice will go up and reach up and come down. It makes the songs like almost, most songs have peaks and valleys. This makes it like flat terrain almost when you're listening to it. But you're still hearing that golden, unique tenor of Peter Cetera. His voice is so unique that he gets by on just being Peter Cetera. And then add all this performance art that he's doing, which we call showmanship. And you don't see performers doing that much anymore. Maybe he's, borrowing some from Las Vegas or wherever. But the point is, he's a great showman. He seems to know where to go, where he's most appreciated, where these women are just, their mouths are hanging open. Even the men are just like they're watching, again, I hate to throw in a religious connotation, but it's like they're watching God, and he's just a man, but in any event, they're completely enthralled by him. As far as Steve Perry fans are concerned, if Steve Perry's voice is intact, and he's able to sing as well as Peter Cetera, which I bet you he can. He's a couple years younger than Peter. One thing, maybe it works in your favor sometimes if you haven't sung a lot, because once you get the cobwebs out and you sing a lot, although there are a lot of singers like Roger Daltrey, who made a great point, said if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And Daltrey did this whole thing before going out with The Who again, where he did basically a solo tour of America with some great musicians. And you could tell he's basically clearing out the cobwebs and trying to get the gunk out, And by the end of it, Roger sounded pretty good. And he still sounds pretty good singing with The Who. He's, again, one of those genetic mutants and, has a little rougher, a little gruffer. But for The Who material, it doesn't necessarily work against Roger. But with Steve, I think Steve could sing all of these songs in a lower key, and none of us would be sitting here going, oh, Steve, what are you doing, man? You're just not hitting that note. Because we're kind of used to Arnel not hitting those notes either. And he's, 18 years, 16 years younger, something like that, than Steve. And, I think Steve at Arnel's age could probably bring it and still do most of what Arnel's not doing. But again, who knows? This is speculative, okay? So if you're watching the video at this point and saying, are you saying? Yes, I'm just speculating, okay, just so you know. But that's pretty much it. If Peter Cetera can do it, I'm pretty sure Steve Perry can do it. The question is, will Steve Perry do it? And will he actually go out on the road live and do it? That is the next big question. For the Real Music Observer, I'm Dave, observing real music just for you in real time. And of course, we will talk again soon.